Thank you for joining us. This is Health Your Own Way podcast, and I am your host, Mo Atkins. Welcome to another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about how to set boundaries in your business so you can live your life. I think it's really important, and I really am happy to have this conversation with my guest speaker. Her name is Allison Nelson. She's a founder and CEO of Allison Nelson, a business strategist, as well as a Make Business Happen, our card deck for female entrepreneurs with bold statements and action steps to move their business forward every day. I know I said a lot, Allison. I did, but if I wanted to say it, do you want to add anything else before we start today, Allison?
Sure. Yes. I'm a mom too. I think that's important, especially when it comes to talking about boundaries. There's like other hats that I wear. I think a lot of women feel that way, but I'm a wife, I'm a mother and a homeowner, and I like to travel just to one place, really, to Florida, from the Northeast. So I like to go south when it gets cold. And I work with clients one-on-one and in a group program too, so that I can help them live their best lives as well. So that's
I appreciate you saying that. I think because a lot of people are like, okay, boundaries. Like you don't live my life. You don't have kids. Like the fact that you can actually relate makes it a lot better. I don't have kids. Do I have boundaries in my business? Maybe not. But this is why we're gonna have conversation today, Allison. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes. I was thinking about, I woke up this morning thinking about the conversation I was going to have with you. And I was thinking that before I had a daughter, before I had kids, I wish that I had known even what the word was, boundaries, because I used to wear the workaholic in me. I used to wear that like a badge of honor. Like I thought that was a good thing to be a workaholic. I thought that meant I had a strong work ethic. And it turns out with a lot of dismantling of previous stories that I told myself, things I watched my parents go through, all of that, it turns out that I can have a strong work ethic and not be a workaholic at the same time. So, yeah. So like for you and anyone else who doesn't have children, you can still relate to the fact that like, I remember when I wish that I learned that lesson, so that now that I'm a mother and I do have to juggle so many different hats and be different things to different people now, that I knew that I understood that better and didn't have to dismantle it being a young mother instead
Fair
of.
enough.
Yeah.
And then before we get into more like high level, I know people know what boundaries are, but what do you consider boundaries are?
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to use the word rules, but kind of, right? Like it's sort of a set of values. It's a belief system. So, I think the rules part is there so that it makes it clear to other people. I mean, everywhere you go, you see rules, right? And that the reason is because we want to make, our intentions clear to other people. So we call them rules. I just don't love the word that much, but I also don't know what other word to use. So for me, they're a set of values, they're a belief system, and everything that you want to do in your life and your business has to be filtered through those values and that belief system in order to make sure that it's going to work for the long haul. It's not going to burn you out and all of that stuff, that boundaries, if we don't have them, that tends to happen.
I appreciate you saying that. Honestly, rules, it doesn't sound a bad thing. Like it doesn't, because in society we have rules and rules keeps us intact. So don't think rules make sense. Like we all have rules. Like, when you're a kid, you have a rule. You don't hit your parents. So it's a non-spoken rule, but you know what I mean? Like you don't hit people because they're non-spoken rules. So there's nothing wrong. Again, those are set boundaries. I think as a business owner, as yourself, and even you have kids, right? You're right. You don't really have to have kids or multiple things, but you do need to set boundaries, and those rules doesn't have to be verbalized to other people, but it can be rules that you set to yourself internally. Is that fair to say?
Yes, totally fair to say. Yeah, because I think then your message, when it comes to like your social media message or the way you work with clients, I think that if you're clear internally, then it's going to become clear to them. Like if you act out of what you already think and what you believe, those rules and those values, it will become clear. Like, for example, I don't have to tell a client, I'm not going to answer your Voxes on the weekends. Like I don't have to tell them that. I just don't do it. And then they sort of get the hint. And like, yeah, is it in the contract somewhere in black and white in like small print? Probably, right? But like, I don't do it. So then they know that, okay, like if I do Vox Allison over the weekend, she's not going to get back to me till Monday, 8:30 a.m. And also it helps them walk the walk a little bit. Like, oh, if she can do that, I can do that too. I don't have to work the weekends either. I don't have to be client facing on the weekends if I don't want to. Right. So it just starts this whole thing of like, I don't necessarily have to be like, hey, here's my rules. Here's my list. I can just act that way. And then I'm inspiring other people to act that way too.
I like it. I like when you said that because it's true. So then, one of the things people don't understand is why is it important, sorry, to create
Right.
boundaries in your business. Even business, sometimes your business becomes your life, depending if you enjoy what you do. Okay. So
Yes.
I guess, so let's say keep creating boundaries in your life for your business to have a balanced life, if you can, as much as balance you can do it. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Allison.
Right. Oh no, 100%. And you know what? I was that person that like my business was my hobby. It was my thing. It was the thing I loved when I was a stay-at-home mother. And I realized that I could do this and I could do it well and I could help other people. Oh my goodness. Like I loved it. I wanted every nap time. I was like ready to go. And it almost felt like I couldn't burn out. Like I couldn't actually burn out because I loved it so much. Like that was impossible. But when COVID happened, my husband lost his job and I saw the opportunity to grow my business. So I did. And that's when I was like, wait a second. That's when the boundary of like, I really love this and want to do this all the time. Oh, also, this is keeping the roof over our heads. This is my job now. That's when it started to get really, really muddy, I guess, or unclear. So I know for a fact that if we don't have boundaries, we will burn out. Like, just take it from me. That's what happens. So I think it protects us from that. But I also think that a lot of us go into business because we wanted something that wasn't out there in the corporate world, right? We wanted to be home more with our kids, or we wanted more time freedom. We wanted to travel and not have to tell anybody, like not have to take off time, or we wanted to just like have more time for a hobby. Or we just didn't want the glass ceiling of like, I used to be in education and just every year you got like a little step up of like salary. Like I wanted to be able to control how much money I made. And the thing is like when we don't have boundaries, we end up being our worst boss, like the worst boss you could ever have. We are now that person like for ourselves, because we end up not doing any of the things that we started our business for when we work on it so much. If you started your business because you wanted more time freedom, but you're a workaholic, where's that getting you? What is that going to look like? So a couple of years down the line, a couple of years away from now, when you want to try something new or whatever, like it's a really hard habit to break. So boundaries help us remember why. Like they help us remember why we started, why we do what we do. And I also find, like I said before, if you're walking the walk, that's probably the best thing you can do. We're all in this to help people. And one of the best things you could do to help people is not really necessarily learning something in a book and then teaching it to them. It's showing them, right? Like it's that whole thing, like teach a man how to fish and he can fish forever. Or something like that, like whatever that saying is. Like, but if you give him the fish, if you're like, here's a fish, then he'll keep asking for for more fish, and he won't learn how to do it on his own. And honestly, I think like we're all humans, right? Like all of my clients are human beings. All of my potential clients are not unicorns on pedestals. They're human beings like me. And they all want to know how to live their best life. Boundaries are a huge part of that.
No, I agree with you. And even then, for me, I love what I do. I enjoy it, but there's so much I can do after a while. Like you're juggling 24/7. And after a while, it's your mental state that comes into effect. And
Totally.
when I think of boundaries, I think of a client of mine, and she likes to push my boundaries. And I've had to go like, I'm like, no. And I felt comfortable like, no, not doing it. And even though she's like, you can make more, I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm like, I don't like, I've suggested a specific day, which is Friday, that I don't do any work. Like I don't do, I'm just like to a certain, and it's my me time. I get to sleep in. And I'm just like, because you need a recharge. You do. And if you don't have a recharge, then there's no point. Like you said, at one point, if you're working 24/7 because your goal initially was to start your business because you wanted the freedom, at what point are you really having that freedom that if it makes it? Like, I know what you're saying. That's really hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a catch-22. It's like an oxymoron. Like you're kind of like getting yourself into a situation where you're the worst boss that you've ever had. And I think that's sort of the boundary there. It's like, that's another boundary inside of boundaries, is that we are the employee and we are also the CEO. So we have to sort of set ourselves, we have to have employee time and CEO time, especially in the beginning of our businesses when we're doing everything, we're in the trenches and we have to make the hard decisions. So it's tough.
Yeah. And I know that we initially at the beginning, we mentioned that you're a business coach and a strategist. Like, are you able to share with us some insight on how you created boundaries in your own business?
Sure. Yeah. So the first thing I did, and this is what I teach my clients to do, is like I said before, really boundaries for me is a set of values, but you have to know what your values are. And a lot of times people have values in their life and they don't realize that they actually can have business values. And a lot of times it's the same, right?
Okay.
So I think like literally just Google a list of values and there's going to be like 200 or 300 like words. And you're just going to go down the list and pick out things that feel good, like things that like pop out at you, like words you really like, or, honor the fact that it like stood out to you and there's a reason for it. And then I think whittle down that list to like 5, somewhere between 3 and 5 after you've written. A lot of the ones are similar in a lot of ways. And I think that will help you figure out why you're doing what you're doing, right? Like one of my biggest values is humor. Like I love to make people laugh. In another life, I would be a comedian. Like I love making people laugh. To me, that is like, first of all, I know how great it feels to laugh. And I know that sometimes when things are happening in business and it's very serious and there's a lot of pressure, it's really good to laugh. So I like to make my clients laugh. So humor is a value of mine. I make sure that whatever I'm doing, like whether it's writing a social media post or creating a workshop and actually running the workshop, I'm making people laugh, because it's a value of mine. So that's sort of like just an example of like what a value like could look like for you and how you filter it in your business. And it doesn't sound like boundaries, but it is the beginning of them. And then you kind of start small with sort of asking yourself, like, what do I hate doing? And for a lot of my clients, this is like just putting a piece of paper next to you at your desk and writing every single thing that you do every day down, and then looking at it at the end of the week and being like, wow, I freaking hated doing that. That was terrible. I didn't do it right. I just did it like, I just kind of did this, very like half-assed because I don't like doing it or I don't know how. And, you can start to realize like, I want to set these boundaries for myself that like, I don't want to work till 8:00 at night. I don't want to work on the weekends. I didn't like that. Right? Like I didn't like the fact that my client did this to me and like asked me for another payment plan after payment plan after payment plan or whatever it is. Right? So I think if you really start small, boundaries are all about starting small because they're new habits, right? So 1 or 2 things, and asking yourself why you hate doing it, why you don't like it, you'll learn so much about yourself and you'll learn to start creating these boundaries for yourself. And really impressing that upon yourself, upon your family when it comes to time. I had to tell my husband, like, I don't want to work past 8:00. You literally have to come over. And like, if you have to pull the plug or take the laptop off my lap or like whatever you have to do, but like, help me with this boundary, please. Cause like, I want it so bad, but I need help. So I think impressing that upon yourself and making it clear to your family, maybe like a set of rules, and then clear to your audience as well.
I like that. I appreciate you saying that. And before we let you go itself, I know that, you started your own podcast. You tell us why you created your own podcast and why you felt that there was a need for it.
Yeah. So I learned so much from podcasts when I was first starting my business. I like went to the school of like Jenna Kutcher and Amy Porterfield and all of that, right? For free, learned how to start my business. And I was like, I love doing Facebook Lives. That was like what I started doing when I, started to grow my business. And I wanted to teach and talk, like that's just kind of like how I like to spread my message. And I thought, well, a podcast is a great way. My people are also newer in business. That's sort of my ideal client. They're newer in business. They have only worked with like friends and family. They've been in business for like 1 year maybe, or like 2 years, but it hasn't really gone anywhere. It's sort of been a side hustle. They need some mindset shifts around it. And so I thought like these people love listening to podcasts. I would rather be in their ear than having them sit down while their kids are crying or trying to figure out like when to sit down. And a lot of people tell me they love to listen to my lives in the car. So I'm like, I should just, so that was the first season. I was like, let me try it. So the first season, it was really repurposed lives that I had done.
What's it called again? The podcast?
It's called the Empowered and Free Podcast.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then now it's just taken off and it's just really fun. So we drop episodes weekly.
Congratulations. I'm happy for you. I know it's hard. A lot of people don't realize how hard it is to do a podcast. And then it's a love. Like it's a love. At the beginning, it's not paying you anything or even that. And some people don't even want to get paid. It's just really something they enjoy doing. So I'm really happy for you. And I think if anybody wants to listen to the podcast or maybe find more information about you what's the
Yeah.
best platform to reach you out on?
Yeah. So you can go to allison-nelson.com. I have a podcast page. So you can go on there and check out where, where the podcast, it's on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher. But you can get the exact, links there, or you can listen to it right on the website too.
Perfect. We're going to have your website details in the video, as well as the show notes. I truly enjoy this conversation because I know that, a lot of people don't have boundaries in life and business. And you see people burn out. I at one point didn't have boundaries, but boy, I have boundaries now. I really do.
Yeah.
And it's really a mental state. With that said, anything else you want to add before we let you go today, Allison?
No, I mean, just, you're right. I love the mental state. I think like what you said, I think habits, a lot of people ask me oh, what are some time management tips, or how can I get, and time management is literally a result of, and it's also a state of mind. And it's a result based on the habits that you've built, the thoughts that you have, and the simplicity of your business. And I think when it comes to boundaries, making sure that your business is as simple as it can be, it's going to be helpful with boundaries, right? It's going to be so much more helpful when your business is less complicated.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Allison. This was really actually great.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We're glad to have you join us. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, share with anyone that needs to be empowered and inspired. And don't forget to join us next week for the next episode of Health Your Way podcast. Have a good day, you guys.